Somehow I knew my connection would do that. Anyways, as I was saying, let's see if this author can make if the third time's the charm with this guy. So let's dive in. This is Sonata Discovers Taco Town by Justice4243.
Never mind.
What? No, what?
It ain't exactly 3 times. We haven't finished all that Shivers yet, so we can't really count it.
Okay, well, let's see if he can make lightning strike twice. Anyways, Sonata Discovers Taco Town by Justice4243. Let's go.
Yes.
Unusually calm. Unusually calm characterize the atmosphere of the spacious living room that Dazzlings occupy quite well. So in this story, they actually have a place to live instead of that cafe we saw.
Or out on the street.
Yeah. I'm going to assume this... Yeah, I believe... I'm going to assume this takes before the events of Rainbow Rocks. I'm just going to assume. Or somewhere in between.
Who knows? Let's see what happens.
Alright. Quiet didn't really describe it. Sound was pretty constant in the house, as the three often had something producing noise, be it a TV, radio, or computer. This was in addition to the near-constant bickering the three engage in with each other on a daily, if not hourly, basis. Even the living room's decor itself seemed to be noisy. The walls covered in bright, gaudy knickknacks and golden-framed pictures of the girls wearing their bright dancing outfits. So what, are they taking a page from Sunset Shimmer and the first Equestria Girl, since we remember her with all the pictures of her wearing the crown in Celestia's office?
She was a bit of an ego. I doubt if the Dazzlings had any sort of decor tips from, like, I don't know, fucking Where Eye for the Strike guy. I don't know.
Strange. However, for now, there was no bickering, and the girls themselves were simply wearing their hoodies and jeans. Adagio lounged in a large purple easy chair and read a book titled How to Win Friends and Influence People. Wow.
Win friends. Bullshit.
Arya sat in the center of a big purple couch with her arms and legs spread out as if she was trying to occupy as much space on the couch as possible, while entertainment news blared from a large flat-screen TV in front of her. Wow, how the hell did they afford that?
They stole it.
Probably. And, of course, Sonata sat in a comfortable office chair in front of a modern-looking glass desk and stared at an LCD screen as sounds of cartoony violence poured from speakers on either side of it. Sonata's mirthful laugh would occasionally mix with the sound effects.
Huh.
Of course.
She must be watching cartoons.
Probably.
Sorry. Looney Tunes.
Probably. The girls continued to indulge in their activities, paying no mind to the others. This was about as close to civil with each other as they got, and much like a living snowman frolicking in the summer heat, it was destined to come to a sudden and tragic end.
Ah, that's a way to describe it.
Nice way of wording it there. Sonata gasped loudly, loud enough that the other two girls could hear it over both computer and TV. Both Adagio and Arya sighed knowingly. Adagio set down her book as Arya shot an annoyed look over towards Sonata. You guys, you have to see this! Sonata cried. Arya rolled her eyes. You've already shown us the cat playing the bagpipes video like 100 times, Sonata. We're not getting up for that. Huh. I feel like I should know what video she's talking about, or if it's just a reference to something.
Maybe. I don't know. Let's see.
Yeah.
Ooh, excuse me.
No, it's better than that! Arya let out a frustrated "Ugh!" and turned to Adagio. Though clearly annoyed by the interruption, Adagio shrugged. We better see what this is all about. You know she won't leave us alone until we do. That's given. Arya begrudgingly rose to her feet and walked towards the desk where Sonata sat. Adagio followed. Adagio and Arya looked over Sonata as she excitedly moused over a replay button on the video. And here we go. This is the sketch that I was talking about from Saturday Night Live that it's referencing. The three girls watched as three men sat around enjoying tacos, one asking rhetorically if tacos could get any more kick-butt than this, quote-unquote. Suddenly, a voiceover kicked in saying that they were about to. Adagio and Arya watched as a simple crunchy taco had a flour tortilla with a layer of refried beans added, followed by a corn tortilla with a layer of melted Monterey Jack cheese. This was then wrapped with a fried gordita shell with a layer of guacamole in between, and then this was wrapped in a corn husk filled with pico de gallo. Far from over, this was then wrapped in a crate filled with egg, gruyere, portobello mushrooms, and merguez sausage. This was then wrapped in a Chicago-style deep dish meat lover's pizza, and a massive blueberry pancake was wrapped around that. Finally, the whole thing was deep-fried, placed in a commemorative tote bag, and then the bag was filled with vegetarian chili. The whole thing took about a minute.
What the fuck kind of a burrito is that? That's like a fucking heart attack in a bag.
That is exactly how the sketch went, I should point out. So,
really?
Yeah.
I didn't see it.
Yeah. I'll link it to you sometime after this beam's done. Anyways.
Well, maybe take a look at it later, after this, then.
Yeah. Adagio stared at the screen in disgust. Aria smiled to herself in amusement, and Sonata looked as if she had just seen a glimpse of heaven. Are we still going on the whole thing about Sonata loving tacos?
Well, you know how the fandom is. Once they found something that they like, they'll just go on it. They'll just go on it for fucking ever.
It's not. I don't oppose it. I just find it weird.
No, this is normal. Do you remember with the first time that Lyra was caught sitting like a human?
I do.
That went on to fucking Lyra being obsessed with hands, humans, thinking that there was a human dimension, that kind of shit. All just from simply sitting because Lyra took up a whole bunch of fucking space on the bench.
Yeah, the fandom can be like that sometimes. I didn't say I had a problem with it. Anyways, we're... Oh, wait. Adagio shook her head. Well, that was a disgusting minute of my life I'll never have back. Aria chuckled. Oh, come on, Daji. It was pretty funny. Adagio raised an eyebrow. Pretty sure you're confusing the word funny with the word stomach churning. Aria's smile widened. That's 2 words, you idiot! Adagio smirked. No, it's hyphenated, you moron! Aria glared at Adagio. What? That doesn't count! Adagio's smile widened. Look it up! Come on! Prove that I'm... We have to go there! Sonata interrupted.
God almighty. It's
Adagio and... What?
It's a freaking Saturday Night Live commercial like that thing ever exists.
Adagio and Aria paused and looked down at Sonata. Go where, exactly? Adagio asked. Sonata exclaimed, To Taco Town! Aria smacked a palm against her face. Sonata, you're so dumb, you could choke yourself to death on a wireless mouse. Ow.
That wireless mouse might have to be small for that.
Mm-hmm. Sonata turned and glared at Aria. Yeah, well, you're, stupid and, dumb.
Wow.
Wow.
That's...
Nice one.
I'm sorry, it's just... I'm now thinking of kids on TF2 that does the same fucking thing.
Oh, Lord.
I'm sorry.
No worries. Wow, nice one. Hope he didn't burst a blood vessel engendering that masterpiece of an insult. Adagio shook her head. Sonata, we can't go to Taco Town. Sonata put a pout on her face. Why not? Because it... Adagio paused as she saw the look on Sonata's face. Because... She turned towards Aria. Aria? Let's walk over towards the TV for a second. Aria rolled her eyes. Here we go. With concern on her face, Sonata watched Adagio and Aria walk towards the center of the living room. The two began to talk in animated but hushed tones. You tell her, Adagio cried, motioning out to Sonata. Me? No way! Aria replied. You know how she acts when we explain these things. Yes, that's why you're doing it. I forget that, Dashi. You made me explain that it was us leaving presents for her every Christmas instead of saying give her.
Can't they just go with Santa Claus? It's not copyrighted.
Hang on, Saint Giver. Didn't we hear that exact name?
Yes, in Cafeteria Control.
Yeah, I thought it sounded familiar.
Yeah, it's just... I bet they're trying to say it's Santa Claus. But Well, shit. Santa Claus is not copyrighted. It's not trademarked by anybody. You can legally use it.
I don't know why they don't want to be afraid of using friggin' Santa Claus instead of Saint Giver, you know?
Saint Giver, you might as well get like a fucking buttload of Christians because it's got the word saint in it.
Yeah. Oh well, what can you do? I guess people have their preferences, right?
Well, let's go.
Yeah. 1 second. Lost my place. Okay, I got it. Yes, but it's your turn. I had to explain the whole bizarre chocolate egg bunny thing last time. Easter bunny. So apparently the Easter bunny also exists in the human world, or at least, yeah.
So there's major holidays.
Yeah. Oh please, Arya said dismissively, like she acted half as bad as the time that she did over at St. Giver. Girls? Sonata asked in a concerned tone. Began to quiver as her eyes went glassy. Is there something you need to tell me? Adagio looked at Sonata's face and sighed. She walked over to the girl's purple couch and sat on one end, then glared up at Arya, then stared at the opposite end. Arya folded her arms, grumbled something incomprehensible under her breath, then walked over and sat on the opposite end of the couch. Adagio patted the center of the couch as she looked up at Sonata. Sonata slowly walked up and sat down on and between the two other girls. She buried her hands between her thighs and looked back and forth, the other two girls, with a pensive expression. Adagio began. Sonata, there's something you need to know. Sonata tensed up and leaned against Arya. Arya's cheeks began to turn red slightly as an irritated look came over her. Excuse me?
She pouted, maybe.
She began to stroke Sonata's hair. Adagio continued. Not everything on the internet is real.
Oh, boy.
No, Sonata whispered out. Adagio nodded. Sorry, but it's the truth. Sonata turned and looked at Arya with a pleading look in her eyes. However, Arya only nodded in confirmation. Sonata whimpered. But TV is all real, right? Right? Adagio shook her head. No, not all of it. Tears began to stream from Sonata's eyes. Aw, jeez. But the Teletubbies are real, right? Right?
Teletubbies?
Sonata's... I'll get to that in a second. Sonata's tone became increasingly desperate and shrill. Right? Adagio leaned forward and shot Arya a confused look. Arya raised her hands into a shrug, and Adagio asked, what are the Teletubbies? They're mummies with TVs in their bellies, Sonata replied. Let's just assume it's the friggin' human world's equivalent of the Teletubbies. Because why not?
I wish I didn't, really.
Adagio sighed and raised a palm to her face. Yeah, sure. They're real. Sonata breathed a sigh of relief, but her expression soon dropped into an ocean of despair. So Taco Town isn't real? Adagio shook her head. No, Taco Town isn't real. But, hey! Adagio said in an uncharacteristically upbeat tone. Forget about it! How about we go to your favorite taco place, get as many tacos as you want, and get everyone there fighting with each other before we devour their energy? What do you say? Well, I guess they kind of remembered they were sirens there, huh?
Temporarily?
Yeah. Sonata looked up at Adagio with sad, tear-filled eyes as she quivered in place. She suddenly erupted into sad, pitiful wails as tears poured from her eyes, and sob began to drip from her nostrils. Aww. Poor kid.
And she cries.
And once again, I'm not even going to attempt to do that, so I'm just going to let Alex take this other one for me. There.
She's strange, isn't she?
That's why she's our friend. Arya sighed as she wrapped her arms around Sonata and let her sob into her chest. Adagio merely folded her arms over her chest and stared up at the ceiling. Oh, knock it off! She cried. So this place that makes deep-fried wrapped heart attacks doesn't exist. You're being a baby. I'm not a baby! What?
Once I agree with Adagio.
Yeah. I'm not a baby! Aria rolled her eyes. You kind of are. Am not! R2, Aria replied. Sonata leaned away from Aria, snot and tears still covering her face. Aria looked down at her now moist hoodie in annoyance. Am not! R2, am not! R2, am not! R2!
Wow. They went from sirens to kindergarten brats.
Pretty much. Both of you shut up! Adagio shouted. Stupid Taco Town doesn't exist, and nothing we can do will change that. You might as well give up on eating that horrifying thing on the video. Yeah, well, had to lay it down somehow. Sonata's eyes suddenly went wide. She shot up and wiped the snot and tears from her face with a sleeve. I know what I must do!
What?
Adagio and Aria groaned. Aria sighed. This is gonna be stupid. Go out with us to gather some energy? Adagio asked hopefully. Sonata shook her head. We must create a commemorative Taco Town taco!
Fuck.
Told you, Aria said. What? Adagio cried. You want to create that food monstrosity? Sonata nodded. Sure, I mean, Taco Town may not be real, but tacos and deep dish pizzas and pancakes are. All we need to get is all... Try that again. All we need is to get all the ingredients and make a Taco Town taco.
She does have a point. Taco Town is not real, but the food that can go into one is.
Mm-hmm. Aria leaned her head back and stared at the ceiling. Oh, hey to the no, we are not doing that. Look, Adagio said as she rose to her feet. We're going out to take some energy, and you're going with us. No, Sonata cried. If you won't help me, then I'll just make the taco on my own, she said resolutely. I'm going to go to the store to get Taco Town ingredients, and then I'm going to make that taco. Well, on the plus side, at least she's persistent and headstrong, even if the objective that she has in mind is kind of stupid. Yeah.
Yeah, let's just go.
Aria leaned up and shook her head. Sonata, you're amazing. Thanks! Wait, why? Because every day you do something so stupid, I can't believe you could possibly top yourself, and yet somehow, against all odds, you come up with an idea so bad that it is literally your worst idea to date. And that's amazing. Sonata smiled. Oh, thanks! Anytime, Aria replied. At least she's taking it in stride, I think.
She just didn't understand that she's stupid.
Adagio insisted, You're not going to the store, Sonata. We're harvesting energy. What's the big deal? Sonata cried. Just go without me. Adagio and Aria both scrunched their lips and brows slightly and turned to each other. They turned back to Sonata. We can't, Adagio said, because... Help me out here, Aria. Me? Aria cried. You're the one with all the ideas. Excuse me? Yeah, but... Adagio sighed. You can't go because you're the one carrying the money. Oh, what? So we're seriously carrying that point over from cafeteria control?
I guess so.
So? Sonata replied. She pulled a large black wallet out from her hoodie pocket and unzipped it. She pulled out a wad of money and held it out for the girls. Aria narrowed her eyes. Our dance outfits don't have pockets, idiot! Sonata matched Aria's expression. You're wearing jeans and a hoodie, stupid! Wow, for once I actually agree with her.
Sonata, I don't know how, but you still somehow surprised me.
Yes. Aria's face turned a bright red as she looked down. Your face is stupid! You are! Sonata cried. Girls! Adagio snapped. Stop fighting! She focused her attention to Sonata. Sonata, we can't carry money in our pockets. Oh.
Come on. Work with me. Shit.
Okay, where did I cut off?
You cut off at... We can't carry money in our pockets.
Why? Sonata demanded. 'Cause, we, aren't used to using pockets and aren't sure how they work.
Congratulations, Adagio. You're worse than your very own nemesis, Sonata.
Aria flung her hands up to the sky. Think of the devil. Thanks, Daji. Way to make us sound dumber than Sonata. Well, there you go. Oh, shut up! Adagio said, wheeling her face over Aria. It was at least better than what you said. Sonata rolled her eyes. Why don't you two, oh, I don't know, take a frickin' handbag? Whoa. Yes, she really just said that.
God! How the fuck?
What?
I guess she's smart when she wants to be and dumb when she's not.
Pretty much, it would seem. Adagio and Aria sneered at Sonata as if she just said a dirty word. Well, she technically did there, but okay. Handbags aren't cool, Sonata, Adagio cried. Aria nodded. They're almost as lame as you are. Oh, whatever, Sonata cried as she flung her money at the two. You two are supposed to be the smart ones. You'll figure it out. Dang. Sonata stormed towards the front door and opened it. She stepped outside and paused in the doorway. Now, if you two will excuse me, I need to buy taco-making ingredients. Sonata, wait! Adagio cried. And door slams. Well, that was an interesting exchange from Sonata. Like you said, smart when she wants to be, dumb all every other time.
Yes.
Adagio sighed and bent down to pick up the money that was scattered all over the floor. She shoved it into her jean pockets. Aria just stared at the door. Well, this sucks. Forget it, Adagio cried. We don't need her. We can cause havoc and steal energy on our own. She reached out for Aria's hand and yanked her towards the door. Well, wait, Daji! Aria cried. At least let me change my shirt. Fine, Adagio said in a huff. Soon the girls were on their way, leaving their large two-story home behind, and Jesus. Two-story home? Jesus. But
Thought
leaving
it would
their
be an
large
apartment or something.
Yeah. Large two-story home behind and trudging past their completely unkempt yard.
They didn't care. They're sirens. Obviously, they don't know how human beings work.
Yeah. Sitting in a back booth of a busy cafe, Adagio and Aria sang harmoniously and swayed gently from side to side. A glowing green mist about 2 inches thick rolled towards them over the floor, but none of the other patrons took notice. They were all too busy having tense, if somewhat hushed arguments or awkwardly avoiding eye contact with the other people around them. And again, not attempting it.
Yeah, let's
Adagio,
not. Let's just go.
Adagio, Dazzlings, take it away from me. There. Moving on.
We could have
Adagio
skipped
and
it.
Aria pause as the last bits of green energy float up into the red jewels around their neck. Am I caught off again?
Nope, I was just saying, could have skipped it. Wait,
You know, it only makes sense they would cut off after I played the audio clip.
it didn't cut off at all.
You didn't?
No, I was just trying to say, you could have skipped it.
Ah, well. Anyway, where did I leave off? I kind of lost my train of thought.
They paused at the last green bits of energy float up to their red jewels.
Try that again. Take 2. Adagio and Aria pause as the last bits of green energy float up into the red jewels around their Oh god, what is going on?
What? I can still hear you, you know. For a while. Oh, there he goes. Shit! What's with this goddamn thing?
Jesus H. Christ, it is bad tonight.
Well, ever since Skype got bought out by Microsoft, it got crappier. Now I can't even hold a conversation with a couple of friends without fucking an interruption and call.
Okay, where do I leave off again?
Again, green energy.
Okay, just, whatever. They both sighed heavily and leaned back in their booths, keeping their eyes closed as they took a few deep breaths. Well, that sucked, Arya said. Adagio opened up one irritated-looking eye. I know, Arya. Another way it usually sucks, Arya said. Like, in more ways than one. Adagio opened her other eye for the benefit of rolling both. I get it, Arya. I mean, we sucked less energy, and that sucks more than usually because that took more energy than usual to suck. Seriously, knock it off! You know, which the situation did. Suck, I mean, into a... I get it! Alright? Stop saying the word suck! Wow.
You know, I can't do it.
What?
There was a little bit thing, but I think that would have been... I think... I was about to say a couple of phrases, but the long story short, I will end in the words blowjob.
Okay. Arya sighed heavily and slumped forward. She folded her arms on the table in front of her and rested her head on top of them. Don't tell me you actually missed that little idiot, Adagio said. Arya shot a glare up at Adagio. Well, I don't miss her pointless prattling, but you have to admit, this would have been easier with her. Adagio sighed and mirrored Arya's position on the booth. Yeah, she said begrudgingly. Arya asked, do you think she actually did it? Make the taco, that is. Adagio snorted derisively. Are you kidding? Even if she somehow focused enough to get the ingredients she needed from the store, she'd probably slice her fingers off trying to chop vegetables. Ugh. Probably, I wouldn't doubt that idea, even in her case. Arya chuckled as she leaned up. Yeah, or burn herself on the stove. Adagio laughed and sat up. Or scald herself with hot oil. Arya joined in the laughter. She might set the house on fire. She might already be dead. Laughter that quickly came to a screeching, heart-pounding, pale-faced halt as the two girls locked eyes and gripped onto the table in front of them. Their knuckles turned white as beads of sweat began to pour from their faces. Arya cried, "We have to go back home!" Adagio nodded. "We absolutely have to go back home!"
Run!
Girls bolted from the booth and dived towards the cafe exit. Oh boy.
Just run.
As the two girls sprinted down the well-manicured stretch of suburbia on their way back to their house, they realized with dread that their fears were not completely unfounded. Black smoke wafted up from the back of their multi-story home, causing the two already sprinting girls to quicken their pace. Oh boy.
Well, now they're screwed.
Arya reached the door first and tried the doorknob. It remained merely rattled as she attempted to turn it. She pounded on the door. Sonata! Sonata! Open up! Just unlock the door, stupid! Adagio cried as she rushed up and pulled her keys out of her front pocket. A wad of bills and some loose change hit the walkway, but Adagio paid the fallen money no mind as she thrust the key into the doorknob and unlocked the door. No sooner had Adagio opened the front door than Arya was through it, black smoke billowing out as a chorus of smoke alarms beeped frantically. Oh, crap.
So she did set the house on fucking fire.
Let's keep reading. Sonata! Arya called out in concern. Sonata! Thought you didn't care about her, Adagio said. Shut up! Arya snapped. Just help me find her! Adagio pointed towards the kitchen where the thick black smoke came out. I doubt she'll be hard to find. Arya leaned down and sprinted into the kitchen. Oh my gosh, Sonata! Adagio followed, a look of concern on her face. Sonata laid sideways on the floor with food-stained, bandage-covered limbs splayed out in all directions. Oh.
Shit.
She had swapped out her hoodie for a simple tank top of unknown color that was now covered in a myriad of lumpy and slimy food substances. Her eyes were closed.
She's dead! She's dead! I can't remember how that goes. Fuck it.
Despite the fact that both Sonata and the floor were an absolute mess of food, Arya leaned down and scooped Sonata up into her arms, resting her head on her thighs. So she does care.
Well, 3 is better than 2.
I suppose. Adagio came and looked at the stove. Black smoke poured from a massive pot that was set on an open flame and sitting next to several other food cake pots and pans. She quickly turned the stove off and lowered herself to her knees under the smoke. Sonata! Arya cried again as she shook the food-covered siren. Tears began to stream from her eyes. Whoa.
Well, now they're screwed because only 2 of them can only conjure up so little energy.
Sonata! Speak to me! Show me some sign you're alive! Adagio swallowed. She could feel hot tears begin to collect behind her eyes. Despite the blaring noise of the smoke alarms, she could hear the blood rush past her ears as the world outside of the 2 girls in front of her suddenly got very distant. Dang, this suddenly took a pretty dark turn.
Ugh, we're getting close to the end. Something tells me this is not going to end well. Or it's going to end horribly.
Sonata's eyes remained closed as she laid limply in Arya's grasp. Please, no, Arya whispered out. Don't go. I'm sorry for all the times I called you an idiot. I'll never do it again. Arya tried desperately to hold back her sobs. Just don't leave me. Adagio stood up and walked forward, then knelt back to Arya and placed a hand on her shoulder. Arya, she's... No! Arya snapped. Adagio shook her head. She's gone, Arya. Shut up! Don't even say that! Arya cried as she looked at Adagio with a mix of despair and anger. This is all your fault! Adagio flinched, and her eyelids began to quiver. She doubted her eyelids would hold back her tears for much longer. Yeah, it probably... Adagio and Arya almost jumped out of their skin as Sonata began to cough and gurgle. A false alarm, people.
Knocked out cold. It still ended horribly. She's still living. Damn it!
She's alive! Arya cried. Arya suddenly buried her head into Sonata's chest and held her tightly. Oh, thank heaven! Adagio stood up, turned away to breathe a sigh of relief as she stood up and walked towards a closed window in the kitchen. She opened it and wiped any hints of moisture from her eyes, and then turned and raised an eyebrow at Arya. Thank heaven, eh? Arya looked up at her face as her face began to turn bright red. I mean, it's a good thing we still have her to help us collect energy.
Again.
Yeah. Adagio rolled her eyes and turned before Arya could see her smile. Right. She suddenly pursed her lips into a tight frown as she looked about the room. As the smoke began to clear, she noticed the kitchen floor was covered in various gooey substances. As her gaze drifted upwards, she noted the cupboards, counters, and stovetop were just as bad, as were the walls. Adagio then looked up towards the ceiling as a brown, lumpy substance fell to the floor. Somehow, the ceiling looked every bit as covered in food as the floor below. Jesus, Sonata.
Obviously, she just doesn't know how to fucking cook.
Well, let's find out what happened. Wow, what a mess, Adagio said. How far do you think she got? Does she? Arya stuttered out in a voice completely racked by disbelief and fear, as if she had just discovered some sort of horrible monster from her nightmares was very real. Adagio looked at Arya and took note of her fear-filled eyes. She followed Arya's gaze to a crumpled-up wad of some sort of fabric soaking in a brown mass of what she presumed to be chili. No, Adagio half-whispered, half-uttered. She walked over to the mass and reached for the chili-drenched fabric and slowly lowered her hand into the mess, coming back up with a tote bag. Despite the mass of gloopy beans and diced vegetables that were getting all over her clothes, Adagio reached out with the other hand. She swallowed as she turned the bag upside down. A few more globs of chili hit the floor, and nothing else.
What?
Adagio and Arya locked eyes as they stared at each other in horrified disbelief. The smoke finally cleared from the kitchen, and the smoke detectors went silent. For once, the Dazzlings' house was quiet. Arya spoke up. You don't think... I did it, Sonata gurgled out. Adagio and Arya flinched as they looked down at her. What? Adagio said, her voice barely above a whisper. What did you do? What Sonata said next made the other two girls cringe. I ate the whole thing, Sonata said as she stared up at the food-encrusted ceiling. For realsies. She actually made and ate the Taco Town taco.
Kill her. Now.
The house went quiet once more. Arya carefully lowered Sonata's head back to the ground, stood up, and brushed some of the food off her clothing. She looked up and stared at Adagio with a face devoid of emotion. She announced, I'm going to take a shower and rethink what it is I believe I know about the world and everything. With that, she turned and walked out of the kitchen. Oh, man.
I think she broke.
Yeah. Adagio watched her go, then shook her head. She walked up and leaned in front of Sonata's food-caked face. She scowled down at Sonata as the latter laid in what seemed to be a shallow pool of oily sour cream, guacamole, refried beans, and chili. She said in a stern voice, You're going to clean out this entire house! The entire house! Heck, I bet that's nothing compared to the pain and suffering of you simply digesting that horrible monstrosity! Ugh. Sonata simply stared up at Adagio with expressionless eyes. Well, Adagio snapped, what do you have to say for yourself? Slowly, Sonata raised a hand in front of her face and clenched all but her index finger into a loose fist. She slowly waggled her index finger, motioning for Adagio to come closer. Adagio scrunched her brow in concern and tilted her head. She placed her ear within inches of Sonata's mouth. Sonata worked her lips and forced out something in a hushed whisper. Totally worth it. The end.
I hope you learned your lesson, you freak.
Well, that was an interesting read. Short and sweet, as I said.